everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another cooking video. And in today's video, kind of the continuation of my little chicken series, I'm going to be showing you guys how to make chicken stock. Now, once again, I've had a couple requests on how to make chicken stock, and since I showed you guys already how to kind of debone a whole chicken and the legs, I also thought it's kind of the natural progression of showing you what to do when you break down a chicken in order to not actually waste any product, which is number one thing that we always try to do in cooking, is not waste anything. So with that being said, today's video is going to be about how to make chicken stock. Now, small disclaimer, because I want to try to keep these videos a little bit on the simpler side and, you know, kind of geared towards more home cooking, I'm going to be making this video on just kind of the quick, easy way to make chicken stock at home. There is obviously a professional way. It's not too much different, but it has a couple more steps that just, you know, aren't really all that necessary for cooking at home. You're going to kind of get the same results. But like I said, if you guys are interested in knowing kind of the more, you know, professional kitchen way of making chicken stock, leave me a comment down below. I can make that video. But just for today, I'm going to show you how to quickly, you know, do this at home for yourselves, whether you want to use your chicken stock to make soup, sauces, or whatever else. Chicken stock, or any kind of stock, really is always a good base to start with, and like as I just said, you can go on to other things like soup, sauces, or many other uses for stock. So without me rambling on too much, let me kind of point the camera down to show you what I got going on the counter here, and we'll get right into it. Okay guys, so here's kind of the quick setup on how we make the chicken stock. As you can see here, I have a roasting pan with my bones in it. I have a carrot, a little bit of onion, and some celery. Now, one thing I did not mention in my chicken breakdown video is that when you take the wings off, typically the little end piece here, nobody really eats those on wings anyways, so that's another piece that you can just kind of cut off and throw into your chicken stock. So while I have the pan here, just really quickly, again, the chicken tells you cut me here, so you're going to easily see the joint right there. Just take your knife, cut right in between the joint. No, the tip of the wing comes right off, and then you can throw it into your chicken stock. And then the other bit there is kind of the good eating part, so you kind of leave it whole. Or typically you would cut it in half, again right through the joint, and then you have your more traditional wings. Alright everyone, so I just wanted to actually talk to you quickly for a second. I've showed you what's on the counter here. To round out the last thing we need, probably the most important thing for chicken stock, is the pot, which eventually your bones, the veg, and the water are all going to go into, so you can actually, you know, put on the stove and cook it. But before I get there, you guys are probably wondering, why do I have my chicken bones in a roasting pan? I thought chicken stock was just as simple as throwing, you know, chicken bones, maybe some veg and stuff into a pot with some water and cooking it. Now, while you're technically not wrong, that is honestly the simplest definition of how to make chicken stock. I'm taking it a step further. I have my bones in the roasting pan here because I'm going to actually roast them off first. And basically what that does is it gives some more flavor to the actual meat. Well, not the meat, but the actual bones, so that when you actually make your chicken stock, you know, when you cook it down, they actually get some more flavor out of the chicken rather than, you know, than just trying to cook a piece of raw. And so to make it a little bit simpler to understand, let me put it to you this way. You know, if you just take the chicken breast that we deboned off the chicken last time, just plain as it is, you can go ahead, cook it up, grill it. There's nothing wrong with that. But when you eat it, obviously you're going to notice that there's not a whole lot of taste to it. But if you do something as simple as, you know, throw some seasoning, throw some salt, pepper, maybe some barbecue sauce or whatever onto it, you're going to get more flavor out of it. And that's basically the same idea that we're going for when we roast off the bones. Again, could you just throw this into a pot and cook it down? Yes. But we actually want to build some flavor out of our chicken stock, you know, especially if you're going to go further ahead and do something like make a soup, or, you know, if you're going to use your chicken stock as a base for making risotto or something like that down the line. Whatever you start with is really going to help build the flavors into anything else that you go with further. So that is why I have my bones in a roasting pan. My oven's currently on, preheated to 350 degrees. I'm going to go ahead. I'm not going to spend a lot of time, guys. We've already seen the video, but I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to roughly chop up the carrot, the celery, and the onions. Put them all in the pan. I'll show you what that looks like. Then we're going to get it into the oven, and then we'll start actually making our chicken stock. Okay, so there we go. It's just that simple. Like I said, honestly, you just want to kind of rough chop everything, throw it into your pan along with your chicken bones. Now, you can throw it in like this. I'm going to just put a little drizzle of olive oil over the top just so nothing actually sticks to the pan. And one of the other reasons why I'm using it in a kind of a pan with sides here rather than maybe a flat sheet is because later on, once the bones are roasted, when we're actually making the chicken stock, we're going to go through a process called deglazing. Now, I'm going to get to that later, but basically, it requires putting a little bit of water in there to help kind of lift up all the stuff that was stuck to the bottom of the pan. So of course, you know, if you have just a flat pan, you put some water on it, it's going to come out the sides. So that's why we use a proper roasting pan that actually has some sides to it. So at this point, as I mentioned, my oven is preheated to 350 degrees. I'm going to throw this all in there. I'm going to let it roast for probably about 30 minutes, depending on your ovens. Basically what you want to see, which I will show you in the video, is that you want a nice golden brown color on the chicken. You want it to be kind of roasted, and you want your veggies to be a little bit darkened but not kind of fully cooked or to the point that they're burnt. As I mentioned, you know, my oven's probably gonna be different than yours, so as long as you have it at 350 degrees, give it about 30 minutes and check it, and you should be good. You know, if you have that brown color, take it out. If you're not quite there, leave it in. But as I mentioned, I will show you guys what it's supposed to look like when it's all done. Alright guys, so this is what your chicken is going to look like once it's been roasted in the oven. Now, one small amendment that I should mention, I started this off at 350. It wasn't quite getting the results that I wanted, so I ended up turning up my oven to 375 degrees, and this was in there for about 40 minutes, not the 30 that I originally said. But again, keep in mind, different ovens are going to work differently. So as long as you kind of get this basic golden brown color, you can see there's a bit of burning on the bottom, but the vegetables themselves aren't burnt. And as I previously mentioned, I'm going to show you how to get all that good stuff, because that's just fat and stuff stuck to the bottom. So I'm going to show you guys in a second here how to get this all off the bottom of the pan. But yeah, just a quick amendment, guys. I ended up going with 375 degrees on my oven, not 350. Just to note, what you're looking for is kind of nice golden color, though the chicken bones are starting to get a little bit cooked. And then now I'm going to go ahead and put this into my pot on the stove and kind of show you the last steps you need to make your chicken stock. So next steps, as we can see here, I have my pan. I'm just going to scrape everything that I can into our pot. Like that. And once again, you'll notice that there's still a bunch of good stuff stuck on there. So that's when we go into the process that's called deglazing. So essentially what you want to do is have a free burner on your stove here. You want to get your heat on there. You want to get the heat pretty much all the way on high so that this goes quickly. Let it sit for a minute so the pan gets hot. You can probably hear it there sizzling away. Then what you want to do is just get yourself some plain old water. Dump it into the pan. You don't need a whole lot, just enough to kind of cover the bottom. And then while it's heating up, you just want to gently take a wooden spoon or a spatula, something that's not going to scrape too much. And then just go ahead and scrape the bottom of the pan until all that good stuff comes out. Usually takes a couple of minutes. You just want to kind of scrape everything off. If you want to wait a little bit, if it's really stuck on, wait for the water to come to a boil because the heat underneath helps to remove everything. But essentially, you're just going to let it come to a little bit of a hard boil. And once it's there and everything's off the bottom, you're good to stop. So you can see kind of a top angle. So this is what you want. My heat's on high. It's just kind of on a little bit of a slow boil at the moment. And if I gently, obviously with an oven mitt, if I gently kind of raise it, you can see that there's not a bunch of stuff stuck to the bottom anymore. So at this point, you're good. You can go ahead, shut your heat off, and you just want to carefully pour all of that nice liquid into your pot, like so. And there we go. And then the next step is to take your pot over to your sink here, and you want to fill it up pretty much all the way with cold water. Now, you might be asking, why do I use cold water? Why don't I just start with hot water since it's going to be cooking anyways? Isn't that going to make it go faster? Well, technically, yes, but also that's also the wrong way to go. You always want to start these things off with cold water because you want everything to cook properly kind of all at the same time. So if you start with boiling hot water, then all the flavor is going to be kind of quickly extracted, and then when it cooks out, it's just going to kind of evaporate out. Whereas if you start with a cold water, right, everything's starting at a baseline temperature, and as your heat increases, the flavor is going to slowly come out of the chicken bones, the beef bones, whatever you're cooking, and then you're going to get a much better product at the end. So that's why you always want to start with cold water. Now, you're also probably thinking, but you just put hot chicken bones into a pot. And while I did, yes, I'm going to let those cool off for a minute or so here before I put the cold water in. But again, because you're starting off with the cold water, everything's going to cool down. It's going to come to a kind of a baseline temperature. So that way, when you put it back onto the stove, onto a boil, everything's going to cook up evenly at the same temperature. Okay, so as we can see now, the pot's sitting on the stove. One tip, I happen to have a 6-burner stove here, but when you're making something like chicken stock, I always like to put that pot kind of at the back of the burner because you can kind of set it and forget about it, and that way you still have space to work around, you know, the stove if you're doing other things. But at this point, you can see the pot's just sitting here, so the only thing left to do is turn your heat up on high. Again, you want to put it up on high. You want to let the entire thing come to a boil, a rapid boil, and then you want to turn down your heat till it's about at a low simmer. I'll show you guys once it gets there quickly, but you just want to keep it on a low, medium to low simmer, and then you just want to let it cook out. You typically for about an hour and a bit, and then that's essentially, then you're good to go. All right, everyone, so almost right on cue, just a couple minutes later after having the heat on high. So this is essentially what a rolling boil looks like. You can see there's lots and lots of bubbles and everything's kind of moving around in the pot. So when it gets to this stage, you want to let it sit here like this for about a minute. And then we're going to go ahead, turn the heat down to about halfway. Now, another thing of note, I have a gas stove here with an actual flame, so I'm going to show you what that looks like on medium, but some of you, you might have an electric top stove. So on that, usually on the dials, they go from about, I think, 1 to 8 or something. So on an electric stove, you want to have your dial around the 3 to 4 mark. That's about, the same level that you would have on a gas stove. To keep it on a low simmer. And again, I'm going to show you guys what kind of a medium to low simmer looks like, but just a pro tip, because of course everyone has different kinds of stoves, so you have to factor that in as well whenever you're making really anything on a stove. So medium flame on a gas stove is going to be right around there. You can see on the dial here, it's not all the way to low, it's kind of right in the middle, favoring the lower end. And again, you can see there, that's what it looks like. Again, if you have an electric stove, you want to have it between the 3 and 4 mark. And then you're going to see it calms right down. And that's basically the level of boil that you want in that. And then you're going to keep that on there for the next couple of hours. And you want to let it reduce, which in a nutshell basically means that you're kind of evaporating the liquid in there and also kind of bringing out the flavor that's coming out of the bones and into all the liquid in there. I'll come back quickly and again and show you what it looks like after about an hour or so of reducing down. But to give you kind of a visual cue, you can see we're right at the rivets on my pot here. And when it's reduced down, we want it to be roughly around this height here. Again, I'll show you what that looks like, but just so you kind of have, you can build a visual in your mind, you want it to be about a quarter of the way down in the pot, and that's usually the best way to go. Alright guys, so it's kind of the next day. I didn't get to finishing this off last night, but I want to leave you quickly with this. So as you can see, this is the result of about an hour and a bit of boiling down and kind of reducing. You can see, we originally started up about here, and now we've gone a little bit further down. Of course, once you strain it off, it's going to look a little bit less. Of course, it's still full of bones and everything right now. But you can see this is kind of where you want to be after you've let it boil and reduce a little bit. You don't want to take it too far in the initial stage, because of course once you strain it off and everything, again, you're going to have a little bit less than you see in your pot now. And of course, whenever you go to heat it back up for other purposes, you're still going to reduce it down a little bit more, get it more concentrated. So yeah, you don't want it to be super concentrated when it comes out again, but this is going to give you a nice baseline of flavor. And I should mention that everything on the top here is just a fat that's congealed. So ideally, you want to kind of strain it off while it's still a little bit warm. You don't want to wait for it to cool down. But when it does cool down, you want to go ahead and scrape off all the fat off the top, because you don't want to reheat that back into it. And yeah, so you're pretty much good to go. I'm not going to show you guys, but the final stage, of course, would be to strain this all out, skim the fat off later on, and then you have yourself some chicken stock that you can either jar up and keep for a long time, or if you're going to use it quickly, put it in some other vessel and use it up as you wish. Okay, so I said I originally wasn't going to show you guys how to strain it off, but then I realized, if some of you, or maybe it's your first time here or you're new to this, you might not quite understand what that is. So really quickly, to strain something, all you need is a strainer of some sorts here. You can see it has some holes in there. It's big enough to let all the liquid through, but it won't let any of these things that are inside. Now, ideally, if you have one, you want to get a wire strainer. Unfortunately, and kind of ironically, I don't currently have one for use at home, so I'm just using this plastic colander strainer here. I might do it a second time just to get everything out. But essentially, like I said, you just want something that is going to allow all the liquid to drain out, but then it's going to catch all the chicken bones and veg and stuff that's actually inside the pot. So real quickly here, let me just put the camera down so we can see. And you can see I just have the strainer in a secondary pot. So here's my main pot that the stock is in. Just go ahead, gently pour it in. Alright, just gently pour it from pot to pot. Let all the liquid drain through. Let all the pieces of chicken and all the veg pieces and everything get caught up by the strainer. Right, and then you're more or less going to look something like this. So you can see all the kind of big chunks, pieces are staying there, and then we have our nice strain liquid down below. So when I say you want to strain something out, that's exactly what I mean. Alright everyone, so that's pretty much going to do it for this video. As I mentioned, making chicken stock is a really simple process. Pretty much you just kind of roast off the chicken bones and some veg, throw them in a pot with some water, and you're on your way, good to go. Now, one thing I will mention, as I said in the beginning, this is kind of the basic way to make chicken stock. This is going to give you a good base, whether you want to make soup later on, use it for a sauce or something else. But it's also kind of one of those forgiving things where if you want to, you can play around with it. So maybe if you want some extra flavor in there, you can add some different herbs, spices to it, especially if you have like a specific end goal in mind. Like for example, if you're going to use your chicken stock in say making a risotto or something along those lines, and you want a particular flavor to kind of be the base of that, then you can go ahead and throw whatever other herbs, spices you want in there. You can maybe throw a little bit of salt and pepper in the mix as well. But again, if you just want kind of a flatline chicken stock base for a variety of different things, this is your kind of go-to way to do it. One other thing to mention, if you kind of want to get some maybe extra flavor out of it, I didn't do it this time, but I have some older chicken broth here in a bottle. So if you want to maybe use this instead of just some straight up water, then that's going to give you some extra flavor, as this already being a chicken broth that has a chicken flavor in it, so you're only going to be adding to it. And alternatively, if you want to kind of do half of this and half water as well, then go ahead. So again, chicken stock is pretty simple to make. You can kind of play around with it, make it yours. And the same process goes for any other kind of stock. Chicken stock, beef stock, fish stock even. Or you can do the same thing, make a vegetable stock, just obviously you don't have any kind of meat bones in it, but you're going to go through the same process. So once again, guys, that's going to end off this video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a big thumbs up. Again, let me know if you want me to kind of go through the more professional way of making chicken stock. I'll be happy to make that video for you. But that's going to end this video. As I just said, if you enjoyed it, please give it a big thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already done so, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.